hang up and try again.
So now we've come to the fourth step of rebuilding yourself. When we talked about the first step, which is choosing the site and clearing it up so you can build on, then we talked about roots, right? That's the roots of who we are. Then we talked about laying the foundations, the certainty, having the certainty, overcoming the doubts. And structure is the third step, which we talked about the last time on Mount Hermon, which is when you learn to see yourself through the eyes of God. So stage by stage we are talking about the rebuilding of your life. The fourth step today, if you can imagine a building, a house for example, that has the foundations, has the structure, but it still has no walls, no roof, it has no fence. Well, what is the use of that house? Not very much at this moment,
no.
Right? Because it has, the space is not divided, the area is not protected from people, from invaders, or from the weather. It's pretty much useless. Yes.
There. Anybody can go in, and anything, it can be anything other than a house.
The role of walls and fences and roofs in a construction, it helps organize the space, divide the spaces in that house. It helps seal off that house from the inside and the outside, and therefore protect as well the house, the residents, from anybody wanting to come in, or from the weather, etc. What are these walls in the rebuilding of ourselves? What are the walls that we can use in ourselves in order to provide us the balance, the organization of who we are, our thoughts, and also the protection from bad things outside and bad decisions coming from the inside? What are these walls in the new self? These walls are principles and values. Principles and values, they are the starting point of every decision that we make and every behavior that we have.
And when you are going through a problem, these are tested very much. And so a lot of people, they think they have values, they think they have principles, but when things get tough, that's when they show that they don't have. And that's a lot of people's problems, because everybody likes to know, or likes to say that they have principles. Oh, I have my principles.
Everybody has
values,
principles, but not every principle is a good one.
Yeah,
right?
And also everybody thinks they're good.
Mm-hmm.
They're good. I have, I'm a good person and so forth. But your principles say a lot about you. And when you exchange them for temporary things, like, you are in a situation that you could be losing your job if you tell the truth, and you go and you have to decide, if I tell the truth, I'm gonna lose my job, so I'll just tell a little lie.
Mm-hmm.
So in those moments, it's like your job is more important than your values, mm-hmm. than what you think you are. And that's where many people make the mistakes, because if you are not firm, if you don't have your principles very clear in your mind, if people don't know that you have your principles and that you're never going to settle for less than that, they're gonna step on you, they're going to do whatever, because you're an easy target.
It's gonna be much easier to manipulate you, to use you, to get through to you in the wrong way. It will be much easier, because those principles and values, they are either corrupted, or they are there but you're not being true to them. You're not acting according to them. Like Chris said, maybe you're making exceptions. So your principles are kind of loose. It's like that Groucho Marx, the comedian, said one day, he said, well, if you don't like my principles, I have other ones.
And then,
A lot of people act like that, right?
and thinking again about the house and the walls and the structure there. I mean, when you don't have your principles set, like the walls, the right place, and you know exactly where the bathroom is and the kitchen and the rooms. If you don't have that set, then any place can be the bathroom. Any place, people can do anything wherever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the life of many people. Relationship as well.
Right.
They have all kinds of relationships, but the relationship is not what they set out to be. You think, oh, I'm going to meet somebody and that person's going to be nice and we're going to get to know each other for a while, and then we're going to get married and then be a family and be happily ever, live happily ever after. And then suddenly nothing of that happens. Mm-hmm. Everything's messed up. You're a single mom, or you left, the child is left home. Everything is messed up and you don't know what happened there. Maybe because the walls are not there. Maybe because you haven't made sure that people know that bathroom is here.
There are limits.
Kitchen is here.
There are limits, right? And certain limits must be enforced and respected. Life depends on limits. I'm just remembering here the case of a wife who recently wrote to us, and forgive the airplane sound. It's actually a helicopter. His wife, she'd been married for just 3 months. And she was saying, she wrote to us and said, I realized I've made a mistake marrying this guy. Because after we got married, even before, he was giving some signals, but I pretended not to see them because I wanted to get married so much. And now he's controlling me. He got mad one day because my cell phone was out of signal. I couldn't get a signal in the area where I was, so I couldn't get his call, and he was mad at me because of that. And he wants to control the clothes I wear. He wants to control who I talk to. And the other day, right in the streets, he started shouting at me and threw the ring at me. And he asked me to choose between him and my friends. And I said, look, I'm not making any choices here. Of course I want you, but I don't want you to treat me like that, to do this to me right here in the streets. And then he took off his ring and threw it at her and said, so you made your decision, like made her feel bad that she was deciding for her friends and actually not him. But he's the one with the problem. But she was writing to us and saying, what do I do now? Because I don't want to lose him. So here is a conflict between what she wants, which is the marriage, the relationship, and what she believes in, that she is a woman worth of respect, that she should not put up with this, that there's no excuse in the world for a man, whoever that may be, a husband, a father, a boss, to treat her like that. And that's when your principles, your limits come into force. You know exactly what your beliefs are, what your standards are, and you are not going to behave differently. And this is what gives you protection in life. This is what makes you a strong person, makes yourself very strong.
And valued.
Valued and protected from being hurt by people. Because when people, usually when people deal with someone who has very weak or loose values, that person tends to take advantage.
It's like when a person has, when a salesman has this amazing product and it's very good, and they don't want to sell it for cheap, because if you find it everywhere, then it loses its value. So they make the price way up, even though it's not worth that much. Mm-hmm. And when you have principles, it's like you are way up. It's like only those who have values as well, mm-hmm. only those who have principles as well can match with you. So mm-hmm. so now you can actually have that dream come true marriage relationship, because you found somebody else who also has principles and values. But if you don't, and you want somebody who has that, it's going to be difficult, because people who have principles, they don't lower themselves to get with people
just
who
to
don't.
have a relationship, right? They don't. When you have very strong, very good principles and values, then you make good choices for a relationship if you're single, because you're going to look for someone with those same principles and values. And that's the other thing about it as well, is that only people with good principles and values can detect people who don't have them. And therefore they stay away, because they say, no, that person does not have that. But if a person does not have very good principles and values, she doesn't notice that they're lacking others, because she doesn't even know them.
And sometimes the person even has these values, but because they exchanged it. They exchange it. And when you exchange it, you lose them. You may think like this, okay, when I got married, I had these principles, I had these values in my, I always said I was never gonna get divorced, and I was gonna be a good wife and so forth. But then after, when problems came and life was hard, it was tough, then when you had to make the choice, you chose to have other things other than keeping your values and your principles. And that's when people lose. That's when you lose. So you may have them there somewhere, but you have to always enforce them. You have to they need, because they are part of you. They say a lot about you. They cannot be exchanged for anything in life.
That's right. You have to stick to your principles and values. Why? Because of the assurance. Remember, the certainty we talked about. When you have the certainty about what is right, that if you do what is right, you're going to benefit. You may not benefit immediately. You may actually lose up front when you have good principles and values. Like Cristiane said, you may lose a job because of your good principles and values. But you believe that even if you lose that job, somehow you will compensate for it later. Somehow it will balance off later on. You have to have that belief. That's a certainty that you have here inside of you. So the man treats you badly, and he says, if you don't comply, I'll leave you. So because of your principles and values, you may say, okay, if you want to leave, then leave, but I'm not going to accept that. So you may leave, you may lose that relationship or that man temporarily or forever, but you are certain that you're making the right decision. And that right decision will help you to have someone of value later.
And inside, you have this feeling, this sensation, I don't know how you say it, that you are of value. When you are strong enough to do what is right, regardless of what is going to happen, if you do it what is right, then you have the sense that you were stronger than the problem. You were stronger than that relationship, that you are that wall that cannot be broken by any little tap.
That's right. You're protected. And so what do you do about this information that we are giving you? Well, look at your values, look at your principles. We, as most things in life, we pick them up from our parents, our family, from our experiences in life, the people we grew up around. And a lot of them are good already. I'm sure you already have some very good principles and values, but maybe you have some that are just distorted, that haven't really led you to make good decisions in life, and you just need to remove them, to change them for better ones. The good thing about principles and values is that you can pick them, you can decide them, you can decide what they will be. You can change what you're going to believe from now on. And that's a choice that you have. That's a power that you have. So our advice is that you go now and start looking at these principles and values that have guided your life, guided your decisions, and also that you start making replacements for those principles and values that have not helped you, and choose better ones. Okay? So this is something that you can do. This is something that God can help everyone also receive, because if there is someone who has the best principles and values, that's God Himself. Look to Him. Remember to look through His eyes. remember to go back to the beginning, because every good principle and value we want, such as faithfulness, honesty, a person who is hardworking, a person who is kind,
Truth.
yes, all of these principles, their roots are in God. God is the origin of all good principles. So look to Him. Look at His personality. Look at who He is. Look at the Lord Jesus. All example. Jesus was God in flesh. What was He like? What were His principles and values? Mold yourself after those principles and values in everything you do, at work, family, relationships, in the way you deal with yourself. Start molding yourself after these principles and values. Start picking these principles and values from these great men and women the Bible is filled with, and say, I'm going to do that. You can actually go with a shopping cart. Like in a supermarket. You can go in a supermarket with a shopping trolley, for you guys in the UK, and pick, I need this, I need that, and put in your cart. You can go into the Word of God, into the Bible, and say, I need a little bit of this from Jesus, a little bit of this from Paul, from Elijah, from Moses, from David. And you can start building yourself with these new values that will make you a much better person. Right?
You said it all, my friend.
Well, I hope you're finding these steps very useful. This is, of course, not just information. This is powerful information, but only if you use it. So go ahead, start applying this to your life, and look forward to the 5th step next week. Okay? God bless you.